welcome. My name is Neil Thrussell, and I'm really excited to have Candice Smiley with me and my buddy, partner in crime, Jamie Adamchuk. So, who I currently am right here, right now, is Neil Thrussell, 4 times international best-selling author, lover of life, passionate co-founder of the Shindao, and really excited. And an hour after the show, I'm going to be painter extraordinaire. I have a wall that's got my name on it. Candice, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Neil and Jamie, for inviting me on the show today. I am stoked. I mean, for the people who don't know, we were having an epic conversation before the cameras got live, so I'm excited to continue that. I am a mom. I have a 5.5-year-old who keeps me on my toes. She's the light of my life. I get the privilege of working from home. I do that from various ways, and that was really born from a desire to give value, but still be able to be present with the one little person in the world that I wanted to give the most value to, right? So that's challenging because you don't wake up one day and you're a mom and let go of all of your dreams. Those didn't stop for me. Those, I think, got bigger when she showed up. And so lately, my idea in life has just been to add value, give value, but to be present. I feel like that's been my word for 2020 has been presence, right? Turn the phone over, pay attention. It's been kind of easy too, right? I mean, we don't know what happened in 2020. We're all looking forward to 2021, right? But yeah, so I'm really excited to be here with you guys today, and we'll chat from there.
Sweet.
Candice, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome to have you on board. Your smile, and maybe it's got something to do with your last name, but it's infectious. I'm looking at you on the screen. My cheeks, I'm serious. My cheeks are going to be sore after this. Mm-hmm. Of course, I work with UE Coaching. It's the company that I help business operators relieve that unnecessary stress, grow and scale their businesses, and truly step into business owners. I'm excited for what the show has today.
So does anybody know what the show has today, or are we just winging it?
I think we're winging it. That's the general impression, but that's okay. All of us seem to enjoy it when the camera and the lights go on. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, it's great when we get to invite other people to listen into crazy conversations with people like us, right?
So I need to say this in the kindest, gentlest way, but most people that know that on Facebook, I'm a little bit of a stalker when I go and get our guests. So I think it was like maybe 2 years ago that Candice came on to or I found her, she found, whatever, she was in my Facebook world. And then about a year ago, I was going to add her and invite her to one of my podcasts, and that just didn't occur. But recently, Candice is done some crazy things, and she's taken the bull by the horn and facing her fears and doing it anywhere. And one of the really things that I think is cool and crazy is you bought a tiny home.
I did. I know. And what was funny, Neil, there's a story behind this. So I've been fascinated with the idea about minimalism for a while. Okay, so that's where it got started. This whole less is more. And I grew up on a farm, so simple was the way that I got started, and then I got bigger and I got into a career, and I've been an entrepreneur for forever. So, you make money, lose money, you make money, lose money. But in one of those big peaks, I remember thinking that I wasn't any happier living this life. And I say I had this big life, and now I have this simple life, and I prefer the simple life because it's been by design. So I brought this tiny human into the world, and she was a big catalyst for change in my own life. I don't know, becoming a parent was life-changing for me. I'm an achiever, so I'm driven. I'm ambitious. These are not words that are normally assigned to a woman, and she doesn't normally want to take them on, but I am. I'm ambitious. I want to leave my mark. I tell people I wake up every day and it's like this drumming. I have to make a difference today, and that's hard to explain. I want to do more, see more, be more. That's sometimes good. Sometimes it means I overcommit because I want to be involved in everything. But this little person came along, and all of a sudden I realized I didn't need this and I didn't need that. And my community stepped up in a big way. Parenting's a big deal. And it was life-changing for me. And I started to let go of people and places and things, a lot of things I didn't need. And I had struggled into my 30s with a lot of anxiety. And you said it, Smiley, it was my thing, right? So I was sort of known for this trademark, not just because of the last name, but because I'm kind of Pollyanna. People are like, if you're not happy, it is not a good day. Because usually I'm like, there's a silver lining here. I'm going to find it. And I realized that there was so much stuff. There was so much clutter. There's like, when did I last touch that? I don't need it. And I find that as I got rid of it, like right down to last year, I actually went through my collection of music boxes, which I collect. They're my thing. And I went, do I love this? Does it give me joy? Do I want to keep it? Why am I keeping it? Do I even remember why I got this? And I got really particular so that I only kept the ones that when I looked at them, it was like, yes. Yes. And I gave away some to, I mean, there's a ton of amazing charities. So I gave some away to a single mom's charity. I've had my time as a single mom, so I got it, right? These things that I know would make some other person's house very beautiful. I gave, some to friends and I said, you've always loved this. Would you? And they were like blown away. Anyway, all of that to say it's been a progression of, do I love it? Does it bring me joy? Why did I get it in the first place? Do I need it? Have I touched it? And being really honest about that. And the less I have, the more free I feel. And a couple of years ago, that actually allowed me to pick up with my tiny human. She was about 3 at the time. And we went all the way down to California and all the way back. We did house sitting. We had most of my possessions in what I call my getaway car, which was the car I basically bought from my dad because I got rid of the big truck that I used to have, right? So everything just got real simple. And it was some of the best times of my life, just being with her, taking her to the ocean, right? Like it was the coolest thing. So that's now translated into, I bought a tiny home, and it was really fun when I was laying everything out in my parents' basement to put it into the tiny home. And my dad said, I don't know if it's all going to fit. And I said, Dad, I'm going to have room. And it's interesting because yesterday, Neil, I actually stood in the room and I was like, I have a lot of room in here. This actually is too big. It's 324 square feet, including the 2 lofts where we sleep. And I feel like it's a lot. It's a lot of space. It's beautiful. It's awesome. If I was, there, I would, totally show you guys around, but it's out in the country too. So not only have I minimalized the stuff I've got, I've also minimalized the distractions. I've minimalized, everything that presses in. So that literally when we wake up, it's about doing and being what I actually want to be, which is very, very present, which I think is important. So yeah, I bought a tiny home this year.
And part of that, your talk was, and your goal was, I think that's what the world needs right here and right now, is more present to each other, to our friends, to what is arising in each of us and what is arising for the world, and get rid of the shock and awe and the outrage, but really be aware of what's coming up. Do you own it? Is it truly yours, or is it the community around you that is causing it? And own it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's been, I feel like, and it was interesting because when, the world situation began to hit, I remember thinking the whole world felt like it just slowed down. And I'm an introvert. So, I've always felt like I've been living in an extrovert's world, trying to make myself be that extroverted person. And all of a sudden it was an introvert's world. And I was like, woo, sweet, right? I can do Zoom meetings and people are cool with that. And I don't have to go out so much. And I remember thinking to myself, I always could have made that decision. I used to think balance was a myth. No, balance is a choice. And I had never made that choice before. And I mean, there's lots of reasons why I was in the hustle and all that kind of stuff. But this word presence, it's a very feminine word, which I felt like I was, very pushing, very out there, very ambitious. And I feel like, so we only ever change, right, through either shock or repetition. We all got kind of a shock this year. And so maybe it's my background in personal development, right, Jamie, that made me kind of go, I can change now. And it'd be easier now for me to make some of these changes because I'm already in shock. And not just me, but the entire world is in shock. And that really forced me to think about designing my life exactly the way I wanted it to be. And what you've seen, Neil, is this constant recalibration. So my dad and my brother are pilots. So it's been always some of these things have been sort of set up for success. Really, if I look back on my life, I got to big kudos, right? Because I am who I am and where I am because of my parents, because of the people who have been in my corner, for sure, right? But as a pilot, they take off. They take off into the wind, number one. So resistance is totally normal. And so when someone's working with me, because, I do online sales and marketing, and they'll say, it's kind of hard. I'm like, yeah, dude, you need to throttle it all the way. And you're going to go down that runway. And if you hesitate for half a second, you will hit the barrier. If you don't hesitate, you will lift. It's just how it happens, right? That's what happens. Then once you're up there, you must constantly fix, because otherwise you're just going to end up over here. And so I feel like when people look and they go, oh my gosh, you're so brave. And I was like, no, this has been a constant recalibration to where I want to be. And that it's been a very slow and steady process. So when you see that meme about, do something today your future self will thank you for, it's true. Not just because it's a meme, but it's actually true. If you don't start today, you will not be where you need to be later on.
I love that story, because that's really the truth behind the whole, and I'm using the air quotes here very intentionally, overnight success.
Yeah.
Right? We see it through so many people. Oh my gosh, I never knew anything about that person. And all of a sudden they're this great big celebrity persona or whatnot. It's taken time. It's taken many, many, many micro adjustments to get to that place, recognizing, oh, I'm not quite right on path. I'm not, going to get to my destination where I've set. I've got to make those little changes. You recognizing it and sharing it in such a beautiful way. I love the airline analogy. That is perfect, right? We don't just hop in the plane and go straight to Hawaii if that's where we're going. It's little adjustments. If you could see that flight path, it would not be a straight line. Constantly, continuously making those adjustments. That's something that we've got to recognize. I believe that maybe anyone who believes, no, it's just a straight thing, I'm going to do this, it's that ultimate straight line, they're going to be in for a bit of a shock. You recognizing it, you sharing that with us here, that's a major takeaway. That's a major piece of value. And I want to thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
The other piece that I really got out of it was choice. Because we look at guys like Tony. We were talking about Tony Robbins behind the scenes, and Tony Robbins did not come from a great background, but somewhere he made a choice to change. So you can have a negative upbringing, we'll say a negative upbringing that was not full of support, and make a choice to change it. Or you can have one that's very supportive and very positive and still make the choices to live and make your own choices and live your lifestyle the way that you want. And as Candice said, it's by choice. And many people that I've found, like if more people made active choices, the entire personal growth industry and coaching and life, we'd be out of business.
Yeah. It's I just finished an amazing book. So I love reading. I was home educated, and I think that also set me up because I learned how to manage my time. I learned that I'm in control of all of that. There was nobody looking over my shoulder except for my dad, who was my principal. So, you don't get away with anything when your dad is the principal. But real reading was something that I really attached to early on. And so Audibles is my favorite. So for any of the people that are like, I don't have time to read, I don't like to read, I'm like, that's an excuse. Go get Audibles. Really easy. Plug it in. Off you go. Essentialism. Phenomenal. It's actually my second listen in about 30 days. It was that good. And the whole concept around it is what is important now. And I think that whole idea made sense, and it certainly lines up for me, right? As a minimalist and now doing the tiny home, like, do I need it? What's important now? What's the most important thing right now? How do I, get through it? Because I think it's so easy, especially in today's day and age, it's so easy for people to get in touch with us. It's so easy to be distracted. Is it an opportunity or is it a distraction? And I think right now, the power of that choice, they literally talked about that. He said, if you get nothing out of this book, make sure you understand that not choosing is also a choice. So if you don't make the choice of what's important, somebody else will make it for you. And this has been a big thing for me because I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so learning how to say no, has been the biggest gift to myself. And it's been easier if I look at, my tiny human, because I can say, I say yes to this, then, she's the one who gets the no. But even more than that, saying no to the good things to leave space for the great things. And sometimes that, right? Yeah. And trust the niggle. And that's, I've got a podcast. I've done it throughout the summer and this year, and took a little break so I could get out and get away and do some of the essential things for me, which were backcountry hiking. We can talk about that. That was a ball this summer. But some of the things that come out of that is I wanted to talk about trusting the niggle, right? When you can feel that thing that doesn't quite feel right, and telling the truth. And that's not just, tell the truth, which of course we all want to be honest people, but tell the truth to yourself. Because most people I've discovered, and you guys are coaches, that people are lying to themselves. So people say, aren't you upset when they say, I'm going to do this? I'm like, no, because everybody's always lying to themselves. I'm excited that they're at least pushing the bar a little bit and they're wanting to do more because they're speaking into existence what they want. But I know it's going to take them 2 years before they develop the habits that'll make them successful. So they do what they say they're going to do. That's not an offense to me. They're not lying to me. They're lying to themselves. But trusting the truth or telling the truth goes back to 4 Agreements, another amazing book.
Yes.
Seriously, peeps. Just write these books down. They're amazing. Yep. 4 Agreements. The first one is to be impeccable with your word. And everybody thinks, oh, that means, I have integrity and I always tell the truth. I'm like, no, it's about telling the truth here first, not using the word against yourself. So trust the niggle and tell the truth, which might be simply, I want to say yes, but I'm not sure I can say yes because that would mean I have to say no to this. And what I've discovered over the summer, which I think you've seen, Neil, through the Facebook posts, is I'm just now willing to have that conversation that I'm usually having in my head and have it out loud and put it on Facebook, right? Often with some really amazing pictures, which is just so people go, ooh, and then they go and check on it and we have this conversation, because I'd like to be the one who starts the conversation that maybe nobody else wants to have. Because I think if we start it, that's important. And then if we're talking about it, then that might move us forward faster to where we actually want to go. Just a thought.
You are speaking to the choir here.
I'm hanging out with my peeps right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's unusual for Jamie to be this quiet because he's normally like right in there, but you can just see the gear. I can just feel the gears turning. Because it's like, okay, this is great. And I don't want to give any. One of the things on Candice's post that I went is, I can do all of the sweat lodges, all of these things with heat. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. It's 600 degrees Kelvin. Fine. You want me to go and do the cold plunge? Crap. Now for me, that's the work. That's where my work begins. Because it's like, yeah, okay. And I've done it for lots of times, and it's always like, okay, I need to go and do this. And Candice posted a picture in Facebook where she's, knee deep in glacier fed water, and I'm like, face your fears, do it anyways, and scream like heck.
Yeah, there's the beautiful Facebook photo, right, which is the best of them all. And then there's a few on the other side that I'm like, I'm going in and coming back out. But you know what? For me, it's about, going back to that anxiety, there have been parts of my life where I wasn't living the way I wanted to live, whether that's because I was people pleasing, or it's easy, I think, to kind of get off track. You don't even mean to, right? You miss the left turn at Albuquerque and you're like, where even was Albuquerque? Was I paying any attention? No, right? I was on my phone. I was, doing some other stuff. And when I walk in there, to be honest, I don't feel the cold. I do feel the cold, but I don't feel the cold. I feel the adrenaline. I feel the rush of being out there, knowing that it's 10K or 20K, out to civilization, right? I have no cell phone. And oh my goodness. And one of the things that came up for me, exactly, there's just nothing out there. One of the things that really came up for me as I was out there is I was realizing, I'm standing in water that once was ice, right? It once was like a glacier, and it's changed So even those things that seem so big, so immovable, everything changes. Change is really the only constant. And so I stand there and I look and I think, you can hear the mountain falling apart, right? You can hear the glacier calving. And to be honest, it makes me feel small and yet expansive all at the same time, which I think you've seen when I'm throwing my hands out. I'm like, this is life right here, right now. And I'm touching it. It's touching me. I'm feeling it. As I think, especially as women, we're just taught not to feel, right? We're taught to be good girls. We don't get angry. We don't get whatever. Don't get me started on that soapbox. But we don't feel, right? We don't lean into what scares us. We don't walk into the water and go, this is cold and it's okay, right? This hurts and that's okay. And so I feel like my entire summer has been about, does that scare me? Great. I'm going to do that thing. You know, is it cold? I'm going to do it anyway. And I think that was a big piece of it for me, Neil, was, and here's that other piece. I don't necessarily want to be the guru or the coach like we were talking about, right, Jamie? That's not the point. The point is that if for half a second somebody else looks at my life, sees themselves in my spot, and finds enough courage to do that one small calibration closer, the world is a better place, period. Because I am who I am, because there were some amazing people along the way who were living outside of their comfort zone, not just the Tony Robbins, like real people, right? Who said, I'm not happy in this relationship, so I'm going to make the changes I need to make it better or to choose something different, right? I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to say what I mean to say. Those are the people who made me go, if you can, I can too. And so that's really come across the summer, because I've been thinking about what's the message, right? Why am I posting this? Because if I'm posting it for likes and comments, that's not going to work. But when it comes from a place of, I'm daring you because I am. And that's really what I want, because if people are commenting and saying, you're amazing, my comment always back to them is, mirror, mirror. You see it in me because it is in you. And we're not afraid of the dark in us. We've been hanging out in our dark for way too long because we've been trying to fix it and make it better. What you resist persists. So just let that stuff go. But we're more afraid of the light. Joy is the more vulnerable emotion than anything else.
Isn't that the truth? Candice, you're speaking my language. You and I are definitely cut from the same cloth. There's no question about that. And what's coming across here, what I see as you share these stories and as you share your experiences out there, the word that's resonating in my head right now is massive value. I keep hearing massive value. Now, many people out there, I think they're all about, they hear the massive value, they see the massive value, but the very first question that comes across is, how can I monetize this? How can I turn it into something?
Yeah.
I don't see or feel that coming out of you. Can you share a little bit on that? Because it's refreshing and I love it.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. Number one, I want to add value. And it seems to me when I live and function from my heart center, where people go, so how do you get paid? I go, well, don't worry about that because that takes care of itself. But
now that sounds crazy. You got to talk on that, because that just sounds
okay.
Oh, don't worry about getting paid.
You're talking crazy stuff there, woman.
I know.
I want to hear about this because this is also something that I practice. Sometimes I'm sure people think we're all crazy. All three of us do this.
Crazy.
Probably think we're all nuts. It would just add so much value, Candice, if you shared so much more on that.
Okay. Just 1 second. We are nuts to some people.
we are, but that's okay. I think we need a few more nuts. You know, it's all good. Well, that's interesting because I want to add value. So people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And trust is that magic one, right? And I just posted that, you know, people say, well, I can't trust people. And I go, nah, that's because you don't trust yourself. And so the biggest journey for me has been coming back home to trusting my own sense of being. Then from that, it's interesting how way leads on to way. So I've been blessed because, so the Go-Giver, that's how we started sort of earlier conversation. Talks about
add that book.
Thank you. Yes. There's some books here, peeps. Success leads clues. I'm dropping some clues. It has 5 stratospheric laws of success. And I was introduced to this book by a woman, and I met her. She was about my age now. It was a few years ago, more than a few years ago. And I said to her, how do you do what you do? Because it was the middle of the day and she was paying for food and she looked happy and I was like, what do you do? She's like, I network. I was like, what? You like, how does that, anyway, that's been quite, thank you. That's been quite a journey to get from there to here. But the concept around that is forget your net worth and just focus on your network. Because when you focus on your network, the network takes care of itself, period. And how that comes together can be multiple things. It can be being in the right place at the right time. It can be like you and I were talking, Jamie. I said earlier this year I wanted to meet a particular person. I've been thinking I needed to hang out with this person or that person or this person so I could get where I wanted to go. And I said, no, I will just become a magnet for the person who can, make that next step. Guys, I kid you not, that was less than 14 days ago. Okay. So I think enough people, they're not thinking about those next pieces. So then for me, one of the ways I was introduced is, so I started my career as an event planner. Okay. From event planning, I got into network marketing. Now that's an industry that a lot of people stub their nose up, but a lot of successful people I was hanging out with, like really outrageously successful people, said, you tune those out. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I'll show you the right way, which is about building the network, right? So adding value. You do not get to sell to somebody until you add value to their lives, period. So the challenge I was given was go out and add so much value that the money has no choice but to start coming to you. And then you let go of how it comes to you, because it's going to be an opportunity, a job, who knows, whatever that is, right? Figure out what your values are. So I'm highly value driven, in case you couldn't tell. There's 10 of them. I live by them. Grace and bravery are the top 2, but there's 10 values. So I was sure of that. Know what you're going to say yes to. Know what your core values are so you can say yes or no to the opportunities. But long story short, the network marketing opened up more opportunities for me to, dabble in places like real estate and to do events and go to a different space, to do things like speaking, to start playing in podcasts, to meet the right people who maybe I did an introduction and there was, a commission from that. It's amazing to me how way leads on to way. Now, one of the ways I get to do that is a company I was with for 9 years was sold at the beginning of the year, right? So everybody knows COVID brought a whole bunch of changes, and the company I had invested 9 years of my life into was a very stable residual income for me, sold. And I didn't line up values-wise to the company we were sold to. So I'm a change maker. I said, great, I'll go first. Where am I going to go? Right? Because I know I have a team of people. I know that, people that watch me everywhere else. I needed to do my research, did a fly down, blah, 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 right? Joined a new company. That new company has been the best for me. Sometimes change is a good thing. And so that's one of my more recent posts, Neil, you saw that, right? I'm thankful for the no's and the breakups and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. Because this or better. And so for me, where I'm at now, yes, thank you. You can find me on Facebook, Candice Smiley. For me now, Jamie, I am so blessed because I have been able to, by making sure I knew what my values were, so being present for my daughter, I needed a company that was residually based because I need to invest my time one time and continue to be paid for it so I can add more value, right? That's how it works. I remember starting off my career and thinking, I just need someone to help me pay this month's rent and then I'll be okay, right? And always being behind the 8 ball. So that drives me forward for sure. And so this particular company has allowed me to do that through social media, which is another one, because I want to connect and collaborate and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted something without a ceiling, because I'm a hard worker. Like, I'm the girl that'll get up at 4 a.m. and get all of her work done before 8 so I can enjoy the rest of the day. Right? So everybody sees the pretty Facebook stuff. You miss all the other stuff, peeps. Like, we're up early, right? I wouldn't say it's a grind anymore because I'm really trying to stay in my feminine energy, which is about receiving. Okay, it's like breathing in and out. It has to be both, right? So the push and the receive. And so I now work with people to trust the niggle and tell the truth. And part of my telling the truth is when someone says, well, I wouldn't do that because, I say, maybe that thought process isn't working for you, because very successful people do things like I do. And if you're not willing to look at it or consider it, right? So basically, I don't have to mix the value with what I do for work. but I add value in what I do for work, right? And that's what I see. I was with team members last night, and they were saying, you never sell your products online. I said, rarely. I said, my network doesn't know what to do with a product post. I'm like, huh? Right? But that's not my gig. But what I do say is, yesterday, for example, a friend of mine popped into my brain. This is how I decide who I'm going to call for my marketing company. A nudge. And I go, So I grabbed my phone, I sent her a voice message because I want to also communication, collaboration, right? And being real, right? And I sent her a voice message. I said, I'm following a nudge, literally. Hi, I'm following a nudge. You popped into my brain today. Maybe that's because things are going on. Not too sure, but let's connect and say what's going on. She came back to me. She's like, oh my gosh, you're good. And I said, no, I'm just tuned in, right? I'm listening. I'm just listening. And she said, I just lost my job today. And she says, I know you did a post a couple of days ago about being able to live on purpose. Can you talk to me about what you're doing? You bet I can, girlfriend. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And people say, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I don't need to do 20 or 30 because, again, my values-driven life means I'm looking for my tribe. I'm looking for the ones I don't have to convince. I don't want to sell you anything. Like, no, that's not my gig. If I have to convince you, you and I are not tribe. That's okay. I'm looking for the ones that go, oh my God, thank you for listening for the nudge. Yes. Is it going to be work? Yes. Is it a business? Yes. Is it going to be, outside the box? Usually. If it's inside the box, there's a problem, people, right? Like if you find yourself on the side of the majority, I should be careful if I say that. If you find yourself on the side of the majority, you need to ask yourself why. You really need to ask yourself why. And so I have no problem when people say, well, that'll never work. I'm like, for you.
This is wonderful. And as I'm going through this, I'm thinking, Jamie, you need her. You need Candice. Where's this? You need Candice right here.
On Insiders Elite. Yes, absolutely.
I'm trying to figure out how to get the graphic there.
Yes, absolutely. No, myself and my partner Mick, we actually we have Insiders Elite. It's an amazing program that we put on 3 p.m. Pacific time, and we share ideas, thoughts. It's designed for entrepreneurs, people who want to take their business up to the next level, might be a little stuck. Now, one of the things that this was formed on was massive, ridiculous value. We're breaking the mold. We want to give what we know. We don't ask for anything. There's not one piece where we're like, hey, just donate to our cause. We don't even go there because I believe the value is in giving that massive disproportionate value. The sale, it doesn't have to be a sale. One of the big things that I preach, regardless of who I'm working with, stop selling.
Thank you.
Stop selling, start serving.
Thank you. Yes. So one of the things that I was talking with this teammates last night, I was like sharing this conversation of how I recruited somebody into my group. And I said, and they said, well, I hate asking for money. I said, I'm not asking her for money. Here's the deal. So when you spend money, when you ask someone to spend money, the word spend means to waste. Okay. So I love words. I'm a wordsmith. Words are my jam.
Love it.
Oh, we could go for hours on words, but so spend. I said, what I'm asking my friend to do is invest in herself. Invest in something that brings value to my life financially and for the experiences it provides, right? I have to work somehow. I have to make money somehow. I may as well doing it something that lets me add value and has no cap on it so I can work as hard as I want to because I am a single mom. The buck stops with me. So I have to have the freedom and flexibility to go with the flow, to go with there's an extra expense I didn't count on. I can just lean into my business. I can go and promote this to somebody else. And they were like, hadn't thought of it that way. I said, they will go to a link online. They will put their credit card in. They will invest in themselves and they will have access. And I said, here's the deal. If they just commit to working with me for the next year, I'm going to pour into them because I'm aware that they are trusting me and I take the trust seriously. And they're going to learn how to market their business online. Then if they decide this isn't their jam, they can go and use it anywhere else. They'll walk away with value. They'll walk away with a community. They'll learn how to communicate better. They'll get in touch with all these books. If they just read, the 4 or 5 books I've recommended this podcast, they're going to be in a different space. So I said, I'm asking them to invest. The invest is my signal that they are ready to make a change for themselves. Because you and I both know when you own a business, it's not all of this. That's the challenge. This is the challenge, right? It doesn't matter what industry, this is the challenge. And we actually ended up on that conversation last night with these couple of gals. I said, you don't ask for the sale because of the conversation you were having with them in your head, not the real one. And together, we crafted some language to ask a woman that they had been kind of chatting with, but not being really honest about, hey, I messaged you because I actually want to recruit you into my business. And I said, we're going to apologize for that, for not being honest. We're going to tell them exactly why we contacted them because, don't get me started on network marketers that do the sly thing. That's just a no-go. And then number 3, I said, we're going to invite her. And I said, you're going to say, I'm following a nudge. And I want to see if this resonates with you. Go and look at the website. If the website resonates with you, then we'll talk about my experiences currently in the company. I'll tell you the truth. And then I'll connect you to a woman. If you resonate with her, then maybe we'll get you started. And she's like, well, that feels so much better. So a message that had been sitting unread, which was the salesy message, she sent this real message and got a response in less than 30 seconds. And I said, energy travels faster. Stop selling. You are a human first. You are everything else second. That's it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think I believe strongly is most people don't know what their own freaking values are.
Thank you.
They let someone else define what value to them is.
Yeah.
And then they let that crazy little entertainment box numb their mind, and they watch too much news, read too many newspapers, and they allow the world to provide them their values, and they don't know what they really value.
I'm going to go one step further on that if I can, Neil. They let the
No
world
way.
They let the world define their value, which I think is a big deal.
Yeah, and that's really releasing their control. If they're letting their world define their values, that's releasing all control and saying, okay, just whatever's going to happen to me is going to happen to me. What's sad about that is, we've all heard the saying, if you don't have a plan, someone's going to have a plan for you, and chances are you won't like it, right? Yeah. Values, I train values in my Business Accelerator program. I go heavy into values because values is the rule book. Values tells us how to operate. Values tells us what decisions to make. Values, when we make it congruent with our mission and our purpose, it's the game changer. It makes business simple, right? My values, number 1 value, provide a disproportionate amount of value all the time. You know what? Purpose before profits, people before profits. Yeah. These are things that, they drive me.
And it just feels better. That's why I said to them, after we sent this message and she was freaking out and then she got a response, I said, just tell me something. You feel entirely uncomfortable right now, entirely uncomfortable. But you and I both know, Jamie and Neil, just by helping her make that message, who cares if that person joins or not? But she's now had a physical sensation taste of what it's like to be that authentic. And I said, tell me this, you feel uncomfortable. But do you feel relief because you're actually being honest about what you want, where you want to go, and who you want to become? Even if it's just one little message where you're telling the truth, right? Just one little message. And she said, I do. I said, good. Now do that again.
I would add, at some point in time in there, do you feel the little slightest bit of being alive?
Yes. You're wading into really cold glacier water right now.
Yeah. I have a question. You use some very specific language here, and I have to question you on this because I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. And the word you used was she had a taste. Now, what's interesting is I'm curious as to why you chose those words because, okay, maybe we're woo-woo, maybe we're not. I used that very same language yesterday when working with one of my business clients and having him ask his boss, ask his employer to get him a taste of what that success feels like. You got to tell me, how did you use those words right there in that particular place?
Well, I think you are chatting with someone who's really spent a lot of time investing in personal development. So I probably read it, seen it, gone to the course, etc. Because I'm a bit of a junkie and I figure I'll learn something new here. And if not, I get to be one of the anchor points in the audience to make sure somebody else does, right? Add, like you said, add value, right? You're either going to the meeting because the meeting is you, or you're going because you need the meeting. Because I want her to feel it. Because when you get the physical sensation, then you can anchor it. And so I don't want it here. I want it to get anchored here. And I don't just want to anchor it in her heart. I want to anchor it in that second heart, which is the gut, which is why I said taste over anything else. Because I wanted to call attention to it so that she knew where I was going. It was more than feel it. I wanted her to taste it because I wanted her to get that, because it'll be easier now, right? People do things because of recognition and because of achievement. So I wanted to recognize how powerful that was. And I wanted her to feel the achievement, because once she starts to feel that, she's going to start to chase the feeling. I know I did, right? When I started to feel it and taste it. Yeah, that's it.
We're talking about the cold water plunge. Years ago, I had taken, my wife Tina and I had done a workshop called The Sacred Journey. And part of it, we were going to do a cold water glacier plunge. And I had taken a group of men, and this group of men, I just stood there and I said, okay, boys, we're going naked and we're in it. And that was and I said, and we're going to enter it as quietly as we can go. So it's now my time. I am taking these women and this mind chatter that is going in. How do I tell women, okay, ladies, I'm a man and we're going naked without sounding like I am some kind of creep? So I'm standing there and one of the ladies looks at me. What's wrong, Neil? And I said, well, I'm just trying to adjust my languaging for you ladies. And she goes, and she leans up, what do you want? How do you want to adjust the language? What's going on here? And I just lean over and I said, because I told the guys to strip, we're going in naked. And this lady didn't really know me. She'd been part of our workshop for like a day and a half. She turns around and says, okay, ladies, buck up. We're getting naked.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And on so many levels, like, and then I'm like, okay, Neil, do not whimper and cry in front of everyone, because I hate cold water. And it was just like, so we went in and we're sitting in there, and I said, so one of the ladies says, so how long are we supposed to be in here? And I go, thinking, 10 minutes. They all look at, one of the lady looks at her watch. Okay.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, oh my goodness. And it was a growth opportunity. As I took it away from, it was purely about, in my moment, as I was terrified, how the hell am I going to tell these women what we're doing without sounding, because the mind frick that was going crazy.
And isn't that an amazing opportunity of growth? Because Neil, you yourself got to grow in what you believed you were capable of. And just like every other lady that was there going into it, they now recognize what they're capable of. It's like, yeah, I can do this. I wouldn't think to do this on a daily basis, but now that I've done it, I wonder what else I could do. That's an amazing question.
Yeah. And the piece is after, when we're in the debrief, was all about the body image. Well, it's one thing, some of the women hated so that other women could see them. And then one was mortified because a man that she wasn't, didn't have a relationship with, seen him. And then they all turned to me and it's like, what did you think, Neil? And I'm like, I'm a nudist. I don't care.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, all you were to me was beautiful people right then and there. And it's just like, who knows where our conversations go?
Yes, indeed. What it comes back to is meaning, right? It's ultimately coming back to meaning, the meaning that we assign to each and every experience, the meaning of what we assign to what we believe we can or cannot do is going to have a drastic impact on what we truly accomplish, right? Meaning, Candice, I'm curious. You put just an amazing meaning to so many things, so much value that you've shared in this program. Can you think of an example, or do you have a time when some of those maybe unresourceful, I'm not going to call them negative because I believe all meanings have a purpose, but maybe an unresourceful meaning came up that you were able to change, that you were able to convert into something that turned into a really great experience? Can you think of anything like that?
I feel like that's my whole life recently.
Bring it. People need to hear this. People need to know this.
Well, you know what? Interestingly enough, this year created some unique opportunities for me to really, and I would call it the power of the pivot. So this is when I wouldn't try it on a bicycle because that's not really my jam. But when you see those guys, they're riding their bikes and they stop it on the front wheel and then they flip it and then they're going a different direction. That was my 2020. I was going on one particular path. I was in a particular relationship. I was living. I was doing things like I was doing this. I had a plan. I'm a planner. And then circumstances, a multitude of circumstances happened. And I was like, oh, now I'm going this way. And
what did that mean at first, though? I got to believe that there was a certain meaning that maybe right away came on. And then how did you pivot that meaning?
It actually brought on a tremendous amount of grief. And so I guess we've got some time. I can get real honest here, but it brought up some grief. So let's rewind till when I'm 17 years old and I experienced a sexual assault. And that's been a very pivotal moment in my life. That also was a pivot in my life. I did not deal with it as powerfully as I could have in the moment, obviously, being what I was. Now moving forward, I have done a lot of, therapy, a lot of work, a lot of powerful opportunities. I think it's been, a quiet driving force, right? What happened to me wasn't necessarily my fault. However, I really believe that we stop being a victim. We take radical responsibility. So I've taken responsibility for that. So the healing from that is my responsibility, 100%. These songs that come on and say, well, I'm wounded, baby, so you have to love me. No, ladies, you go and you do the work to get well. I should say just ladies, like go get well. There are so many people, places, and things. And I remember somebody said to me, well, that happens to everybody. That's also not a good thing. Like we need to change some of these things. And that's why there's so much support. So remove the stigma moving forward. That was years ago. Now I'm able to have these relationships, but I'd always said at some point I will stop my life and I will do deep healing work for the last of that to sort of bring it around. Right. And of course things happen and you just sort of keep piling it on. So one of the habits I had was to run away. Right. And I would say I'm running away because I want to get perspective. And then I'd come back and I'd make a whole bunch of changes in my life. But there were some definite patterns that were repeating in my life, some definite themes. And when this last pivot happened, it brought on a lot of grief. There was an ending of a relationship that was significant and sort of caught me off guard. There was, some moves. There were some changes in my business and some plans. And it all compiled. And the grief was overwhelming. And first thing I was grateful for is I reached out in desperation to my network. There's actually a post coming about this, Neil. So anybody who's watching this, you get a preview of coming attractions. And I said, I need your help. And a number of healers and people I knew in my world, therapists and stuff like that, they showed up and they gave of their time, their space, and their energy. And I was so grateful to them that I had that. So first and foremost, I was glad that, yes, my network supports my business, but this was a moment where it really supported my personal life, right? And people stepped up and moved forward through that. From that grief, I felt like I had been ripped open from my base all the way to my crown, just ripped open. And I was like, why am I here? What am I doing? I've been repeating some of these things. I'm, 35, 36 years old. What gives, right? And that was interesting because I felt like, and this is a bit woo-woo, but just go with me here. When I looked inside that, because someone said, why don't you look inside? Just look in the rip and see what's there. And all I saw was stars. And for me, it really signified that there's more. There's space. You're okay. So whatever, I don't want to get too into the woo, but that's what it sensed for me. And then I felt like maybe I could, touch it. And for me, touching it meant leaning into it. And so my whole life up until that point had been running away from that feeling of grief, or the feeling of I didn't do that right, or people pleasing, or whatever. And all of a sudden I was like, right, but when I brought my little one into the world, I did that by leaning into the pain and letting my body do what it was designed to do. And so I realized that everything really does set you up. Like, what if the world really it's rigged in your favor? Life is rigged in your favor, people, and you are where you are, and everything that you are and have done is has brought you here. And so I went, well, maybe I'll lean into it. And to be honest, I leaned into the grief, and it wasn't quite so bad, right? I leaned into that sense of, okay, so your life is kind of blowing up. That's okay. And then I realized I'm probably going to grab the grenade pin and I'm going to blow up a few other things, because you know what? This is no longer in alignment. And maybe I don't really love this either. And maybe I need to say yes, no to this. And to be honest with you, saying no is hard for me. I want to be involved in everything, right? I do. I love being involved in good ideas. And I realized that I was building other people's businesses, right, as a social media marketer and some of those other things, an event planner, because I was actually too darn afraid to lean in and do my own thing, right? Doing podcasts like this and just talking about what I've been through, it's not about me. And people say that all the time. I'm like, yeah, but forget this. This is the human experience. I'm just trying to be brave enough to talk about it so you can. I'm going to try to be brave enough to talk about debilitating grief or anxiety or depression or whatever it is, so that you can too, because I'll go first. I'll leave my butt, hanging out there or freezing in wherever, and then it'll be a little bit easier for you. And I'm okay with that. Yep. And, I'll talk about things like whether it's grief or depression or, taking radical responsibility, right down to things like the bands movements. Like, some of my biggest wounds I've got are from unhealed men, right? They haven't dealt with their own traumas. They haven't, and we could soapbox about that one for a long time. But one of the things that's important for me is I'm going, right, but if this side doesn't talk to this side, that's a problem too. So I'll hang out in the middle and I'll talk about both of them. If for no other reason, then at least we're talking about it now. And then if it's like, when you're training a dog, right? And they're bark, 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 and you just touch them and it breaks the preoccupation. I feel like that's one of my missions in life, right? And we were sharing this at the beginning. I want the hashtag on my gravestone to be, and then I met Candice. Not because I'm anything special. I'm just a mirror for how awesome you are, and vice versa. Don't get me wrong. I know I have value. I work on that all the time, but I want to be the one that goes, tap.
Sweet.
Hey, now you're not thinking like everybody else. Think for yourself for just half a second. Just half a second.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for taking that opportunity to be so real and so honest. The bad part is we only have an hour for our show.
An hour. We could go for a long time. Yes. Well, and I mean, I do have a podcast, and I will be doing more of this moving forward. I used to just interview other people and women because I was still trying to build other people's businesses, because that was much safer to do than actually standing in my own power. And now I really just want to collaborate. So I'm going to be doing more of this kind of thing moving forward. Is just talking about what I'm going through and putting it out there in a way that honors my own privacy, but also presents, I think, as much as I can, that human element. We are all in this together.
Together. So, I've been flashing everybody. This is the best way. Candice has said that this is the best way to get a hold of her. So if you're looking for it, take a look at her face, and then take a look at how you spell the name, and then you should be able to find Candice on Facebook.
Yep.
Jamie, is this Do we want to do this? Search for you?
Absolutely. You can find me through, gosh, just about anything. Type my name into the internet and you'll find me. You'll find me. Great way.
Why this is important, because if you search for Jamie, you'll get his podcast that he's doing, which is Insider's Elite Business, which goes at what time again?
We're going to be on at 3 p.m. Pacific today, which is, of course, 4 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 8 a.m. Australian time. And the reason I bring up Australian time is because my partner, Mick Scottney, comes on with me, and we provide a worldwide perspective. So you're getting it from up here, North America, and all the way down there in Australia. Two of us come together, share business insights, all that great stuff.
And what are you talking about today?
You know, today we're going to talk about a little bit of overwhelm. I'm going to give a big drop for one of our previous guests, Sarah. I want to talk a little bit about what she does. It's eliminating a lot of that excess stress, understanding that burnout is a very real thing, right? That fatigue, and I heard the term Zoom fatigue this morning as I was driving in. So we're going to jump into that a little bit, recognize some of the actions that you can take, and maybe we'll just be lucky enough that Sarah will be there and she can share some great comments and stuff like that, and really provide her expertise, because this is really where she comes in big time.
So search for Jamie, find his homepage, because he posts the Insiders Elite podcast, Facebook Live there. So if you found me, you found me on the Best You Can Be or the Shindao page, or on my personal page. But if you want to see a little more, I've got a gift for you. You can get 7 Secrets to Living a More Joyful Life at bestyoucanbe.ca. And this has been incredibly insightful, but underlining fun, fantastic, and freaking awesome to have you on our show today, Candice. And yes, we should have had you. I should have had you on sooner, but it's divine timing. It's perfect the way it is now. So do you want to lead, or you want to wrap up today, Jamie?
Either or. I am satisfied with whatever. See, I'm one of those pleasers too. See, Candice, we're pleasers. We love to please. It's like, whatever you want, I'm in. Yes.
I'm in. Yes.
Okay, so then I'll lead us out, and then Jamie will wrap us up. So I want to take a few seconds and to thank you for tuning into our Facebook Live, our YouTube Live, and our podcast channel. Wherever you see this currently right now, or in our future, current, past, whenever you see this, thank you for tuning in, and thank you. And I want to say that you are worthy of achieving all your goals, passions. And one of the things that I ask you to find out your values, define your own values, go forth, live a life from love and compassion, and have fun. Candice.
Well, I want to say first a big thank you to the two of you for putting out a podcast like this and everything else that you are doing with and around that. And for people who are listening in, the reason we ask you to go follow, to share if there's value here, is that's how you give us a clap or a high five in today's day and age. It matters to those of us who are putting ourselves out there, who are creating this content for you. It's a big way to say thank you. I wanted to follow up what you had said, Neil. Take the time to do the inner work. I recently met the person I would call my person, which was a beautiful mix from that whole pivot, right? Doors closed and others opened, right? Because I pivoted and did the work. And it was interesting because his comment was, you meet your person and the work continues. So I want to relate that back to this moment here and now. Whatever that thing is that you think you need to be happy or to go after, or I wish I would if I could, or, you can do it, but I'm not as brave as you. That's not the point. The work is always going to continue. So what I want to encourage anybody who's listening is use our 3 examples of we're living our life as best we can, on plan, on purpose, as much as we can, doing the calibrations. You can too, but become your own hero, become your own guru. Look for those moments and taste it, feel it. When I started this journey, I was looking for it to feel like sunshine, lollipops, and roses. It doesn't feel like that, okay? It feels pretty gross, actually, right? If you're, making a breakup, or you're making a change in life, or you lose your job, lots of those things don't feel good. However, what you were looking for is the feeling of relief. It's a little lift. That's all it is. A little tiny lift. You might feel in your body, you might just sense it, but just learn to look for the feeling of relief, because that will become to be your guidepost. And eventually you'll look back and realize that you make a lot of decisions based on that. And that's not woo-woo. Just sit with it today and look for the feeling of relief, because that's how you begin to calibrate your life to exactly where you want it to be. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
That was absolutely beautiful. So many incredible words. Mine today is about living your life on purpose with passion. When you make that conscious choice to define what your purpose is, even if you don't know it, maybe your purpose is to discover your purpose. Nonetheless, define what it is that you love. Define what it is that you have a passion for, whether it's serving in business, whether it's making that big difference, whether it's serving someone else. Discover what your passion is and pursue it relentlessly. Live your life on purpose.
Sweet. Thank you, both of you. Thank you, Candice, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Thank you, my friend and buddy Jamie. And with that, it's adios time.